for now, but a good portion of my family's in South America, and I'll never forget when I was in my really like late teens, early 20s. I went down there and I went out with my cousins to a bar. It was like a club, right?
Dr. Nick Epley says the data keeps contradicting the cynical story that humans only look out for themselves. This clip is about why our everyday kindness, even with strangers, may be more hardwired than we think.
Gently say, they are all our children, and you don't feel different. So I think what's interesting, not as if there is any subtle difference that's left, is how almost completely imperceptible or completely imperceptible it actually is. And that's what makes us remarkable as human beings, that we can do that. There is no other species we know of that does that kind of thing, that loves beyond their kin in the way that we can. In fact, it's led to a total reshaping in many ways of the field of economics even. Economists believe that humans are fundamentally self-interested. They only care about themselves. The only rub is when you actually look at the data, people are just a lot nicer to each other than standard models of economics would predict. We give money away to charity. We give away kidneys to random strangers. We care. Like if I give you $10 in an experiment and tell you you can divide it with another person however you want, you can keep all of it, give none of it, or give it all away. The standard prediction from economic theories, you'll be purely self-interested. You won't care anything about this person you know nothing about. You'll give them nothing. That's not what real people do. They give something, 30%, 50%, typically depending on the context that you're in. And that's the thing that I think is remarkable in this particular case. Not is there any bit left of this biological hardwiring, but how much of it is about the role that you play, and how much our love for another, our ability to connect with another person, is a function of the role that we play in their lives.
Incredible example that the moment you made the decision, you and your wife made the decision that these were the children you were going to adopt, that your visual perception of them changed.
Different.
Yeah, it's almost like two circuits merged in that moment. And I can attest from a parallel experience, although I'm not the parent of this family member, that you never go, it's an instant and you never go back.
No,
there's never a reconsideration that,
no.
And I think some people assume that well, in especially hard times, it's actually, it kind of just leaves the room. The question of
it's immaterial.
It's a fascinating and reassuring aspect of our brain wiring.
Other people might imagine that you think this, it just doesn't. You're just a parent. That's it.
Wild. And very cool.
It is very cool. And I think an underappreciated aspect of our sociality is how much we kind of take it for granted. People are mean to each other and so on. Yeah, people can be mean to each other, but we also love each other way beyond what we should in some way based on just pure, kinship relationships and biological offspring would predict we would.
We're seeing the key shift here. Love and trust are not just biology. They can come from the role someone takes in our life.
Biological offspring would predict we would. And that's because we're highly social. We got to cooperate with each other in order to get along successfully in life. And so we've got these really hardwired kind of circuitry to care and love and connect with each other when we try.
What I'm about to describe might be different now, but a good portion of my family's in South America, and I'll never forget when I was in my really late teens, early 20s. I went down there and I went out with my cousins to a bar. It was like a club, right? And it was so interesting because they spoke to their friends. We met up with their friends there. People danced, people drank, did all the things that we were also doing back in California. But there was no communication with other people at this club or this bar that they didn't already know.
Oh.
This may have changed, but then and there, the culture was one where you go out with the people you already know and you have a really good time. But people weren't exchanging numbers, hitting on people, looking at other people across. There were these little pockets across the room. So it wasn't this idea that, when you go out in public, you go to a club or you drink or something, you might meet somebody else.
Yeah, interesting.
There wasn't a fear of other people. That wasn't the reason you go out.
Yeah.
You go out to see your friends.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing also was that many of these friendships had been lifelong friendships.
Oh, yeah.
So in some sense, I wonder, is this one version of how humans evolved? Because we always think about this village of like 100 people. Bob Sapolsky talks about this, and we evolved in these cultures of 100 or 200 folks, and you knew everyone, and everyone's in each other's business, and that's how our species evolved. At the same time, we have different examples of sociality,
and that strangers weren't around as much.
Yeah,
was the idea.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I don't know. Certainly today, if you look around the world, there is and always has been some anxiety about connecting with strangers, and it can vary depending on where you're. There's some places where there's more sociability than in others, but there's always been some anxiety about the other, the one you don't know, right? Because you don't know necessarily if I can trust you or not in this moment, whether that comes from our evolutionary heritage or not, or just unfamiliarity with anything, right?
This is the tension underneath social anxiety. Strangers feel risky, even though ordinary contact often goes better than we predict.
Or just unfamiliarity with anything, right? So if you give me something to drink here, I don't know what's in it, I'm going to be a little nervous. I want to find out before I drink it. If I trust you, I'll drink it. But if I don't, I'm not so sure. I'm going to want to see what's in there first. There's always some anxiety about the unknown or uncertainty. And it could be a lot of stuff about strangers, a reluctance to connect with other people, a desire to keep with the folks we already know, comes simply from that, right? Which also would apply to non-human interactions too, or non-human objects as well. We just like what's familiar because we know it and we trust it and we're comfortable with it as a result. Everything else, by comparison, is a little bit riskier.
I can't say I'm particularly outgoing or not, but I was taught manners that had me ask how people's day was going. Like if I'm checking out the grocery store, it's like, how's your day going? And I'm interested. Like it's not just an icebreaker or something. Like, how's your day going? You hold the door for people. You say please and thank you. I think a lot of people assume that manners equates to small talk, equates to superficial, and that it's all a bunch of fluff, that it's not about deep connection. But when I'm moving through the checkout line at Whole Foods, I don't have a lot of options.
Yep.
If I say nothing, okay, these days no one would notice. They could be on their phone. No one would call that abnormal. If I say, how's your day going? And they go, pretty good. If I say, what'd you do before you got here? That's getting a little bit further down the line, right?
Yeah.
If I say, like, what's the hardest thing that ever happened to you? They're going to look at me like I'm crazy, right? So what I wonder is, when we talk about manners and etiquette, which I believe there's been a real kind of erosion of at the level of kind of what is standard, right? For whatever reason, we just don't have an etiquette everyone follows. It used to be all men wore jackets and ties, or at least ties to work. I mean, now you show up in whatever, right? Yeah. I do think that as manners have become less common, or common manners have become less common, that the opportunities for casual, low-level exchange have evaporated. Yeah. And so there's less of a stepping stone to deeper exchange.
Yeah. So I would think about manners kind of as habits, right? That's kind of what they are. And some sensibilities about other people, being kind and decent to other people. But understanding how those manners might be affecting day-to-day behavior is a little bit tricky. So one of the things, for instance, we find, like in a lot of public spaces, people are reluctant to engage with other people because they don't want to interrupt. They don't want to be impolite. There's a version of that is about manners, right? And we have, sometimes we're getting signals of that. Tech gives us signals that somebody doesn't want to be bothered, perhaps, like we put earbuds in or we look at our phone, right? And so some of that could be coming from what you might think of as manners. In the UK, for instance, one of the reasons
If small manners are really the first step toward trust, have we lost something important by treating them as superficial? Leave your take in the comments and like and subscribe for more clips like this.